We're in for a wild night.
Welcome everybody to episode 104 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host, as always, Nate Wolf. It is great to be back on another beautiful spring Friday evening here, joining you from Portland, Oregon. We do have a little change of scenery tonight. Our good friend Sheep is out this week and next week, moving out of Texas and off over into the westish coast. And so that being said, I'm still joined by two of my favorite people. They just happen to be a little bit different. Hydra, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm super stoked to be here again. Last week, my parents were in town, and they were here all last week and part of this week. So I've got to, just jump back into this meta. While they were here, I just sort of try to jam my quests out at night after, they went to bed, get that stuff done. But doing a little catching up meta-wise and everything. But most importantly, I'm back here. It's Friday night. It's my favorite night to be here, and I'm stoked.
Absolutely. Happy to have you back. I look at you with the fresh haircut. You look so handsome. Oh, it's great.
Aw, thank you.
And joining us tonight, we do have a very special returning guest filling in over here. And I think while there is not necessarily an introduction needed, there is a little theme music.
I have theme music.
Shoot, there it is. All right, hey, welcome back, SchmoopieDaddy. Welcome back. It's great. It's always great to have you. I think for those of you not familiar with SchmoopieDaddy, it's just awesome player. I think we got to know you as the king degenerate of Secret Mage players, and I remember I think the first time we had you on talking about Secret Mage, and then kind of did this deep dive conversation into like what does it look like to hit legend and deep dive into Secret Mage. The video got actually a pretty big number of views on YouTube, which is not always normal for us. And
I think it's one of our highest viewed videos on YouTube, actually.
It is. And then the meta shifted like really hard into Secret Mage, and everybody I think was blaming you, and it's great.
Yep.
And we've had Schmoopie Mommy on the show, and that was fun. And watch her climb to legend for the first time, which is just incredible. And I think she is probably a better player than either three of us here. Watching someone start the game and hit legend within the first 2 months, it's just absolutely bananas. And so it was like
she almost hit that first month. It was insane. Like again, four boss battles, your first full month playing Wild,
right?
Playing an off meta deck, and I'm convinced the only reason she didn't get it was the meta shifted and Demon Seed started running a little bit more healing, and like that was it. Like it was just like one extra healing spell, and she didn't get. But no, she's crazy because she can pop off and just sort of. I'll give her a list, and we'll talk about it later. But I'll give her a list, and she'll have like playing the deck a couple games. She'll be like, I don't really like this card. I don't really like this card. Can we cut this card for this card? Completely on. Wow. But yeah, no, Nate cast Switch, and so I'm Switcheroo, and so now I'm here instead of Steve. You guys are stuck with me.
Switcheroo, that's great.
I'm really excited to be here on like what's such an important night for the show, because it's like we got nerfs today, so we got to talk nerfs. So I'm really stoked to be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well. If for anybody who hasn't listened to the show before, I'm going to go over the show format for anyone. So if you're listening for the first time, welcome aboard. I'm going to briefly explain how this whole show works. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. The video version of the podcast is then posted on YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you're watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast, thank you. Yes, you.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate everyone hanging out here, watching us live, and hanging out on Twitch. We'll keep an eye on the Twitch chat in case anyone's got questions or issues that they want us to address. And otherwise, if you're watching this later on YouTube or listening to us on a podcast platform, we really appreciate it. Before we get into the main topic of the show, just some quick housekeeping. Wanted to say a very quick but important thank you to Shokunin, who's the executive producer of our show, and to our patrons. That your support means the world to us, and a little bit of support goes a long way. Any sort of contributions we get all get pushed back into the show for artwork and website fees and all that stuff. If you are interested in supporting the show at all, leaving a subscribe, like, comment, whatever on any of our YouTube stuff just helps the algorithm to get other people to find us. And any sort of comments or feedback on any of the podcast platforms, also same thing, kind of helps people find us. If you are someone watching on Twitch, we do have emotes that you can unlock by subscribing, which is free if you have Amazon Prime. Little perk there. We got some cool new emotes that are fun. There are some free ones as well, just for following. And then finally, if you're interested in supporting the show financially, we do have a Patreon. There's a link to it on our website for as little as $1 a month that you can help support the show. Finally, if you are interested in interacting with us personally, just want to give a big push to our Discord channel. If you're not familiar, it's like an online community, friends that we've made all across the whole world, like SchmoopieDaddy here, talking about Wild Hearthstone, talking about real life sometimes, and sharing deck lists and all kinds of stuff. So it's fun. If you're interested in joining, it's free. We have a good time. It's very positive, and most of the time, yeah. The links there are on our website. Hey, we have mods now. It's great. It's great. I love elbowing the mod check. Anyways, if you're looking to check that out or join or whatever, go to our website. It's borntobewildhs.com. Links to all that stuff is there. There's a bunch of different pages and stuff, but if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, it's got links to all the stuff. So anyways, all right, housekeeping aside, let's move on to the major topic of why we're here tonight. So two big things, I think, when we started working up the show notes, there was a couple topics that we were going to talk about tonight. One was, like, we all knew that nerfs were incoming because they mentioned, hey, balance changes typically about 2 weeks into a new expansion. And, there's been a lot of complaining about Kael'thas in Wild and Switcheroo in Wild, and kind of curious what those were going to be. And so the idea going in was, hey, let's talk about what our nerf predictions are, knowing that a lot of times nerfs are done for standard as well. What do we think those are going to be, and how are they going to impact Wild? And then earlier today, Gallon tweeted out, here's all the balance changes. They're coming next Tuesday. And it's like, oh, wow, we just did a switcheroo there. And now the whole show is changing to talk about what the nerfs are and how we think those will impact. And then something that we were going to talk about a little bit, and again, this was not knowing that the nerfs were going to happen, but still kind of wanted to go there, is the idea that the meta over the past couple weeks has been skewed, maybe is the word that I'm looking for, because these two decks, the Kael'thas Druid and the Switcheroo Priest, are like running rampant. And so how do you climb? How do you make meta predictions? How do you make deck selections? Or even, kind of what are your goals? So we're still going to go there, just in maybe a little bit of a different format than we were originally planning. But I'm excited. Now, before we jump into that, we had reached out both in Discord and social media to see if anyone had questions. And so we have a few that are thrown in throughout the show. But I've got them thrown in where appropriate, whether it's meta discussion or deck discussion or whatever, nerf discussion. But the first one, I think I'd like to talk before we get into our main event, because it's really aimed at SchmoopieDaddy. And for those of you who don't know, one of the things that makes SchmoopieDaddy quite legendary is your prowess for achievement hunting. And I think every time you're able to check off all these boxes, you spend a lot of time, making sure that they happen. There's a lot of crazy deck concoctions that you'll come up with to do these things. And let me ask real quick, what level did you hit on the rewards track? Like, did you max it out, or do you get close?
I've maxed out every rewards track.
Holy cow, dude! Like
we're not talking the level 100.
400? Is it 400 or whatever?
400, yeah. I get the Tavern Pass, which I was told in one Discord was pay to win, but I know a lot of people who get the Tavern Pass who don't hit 400. So
Yeah, no, I think you get it if you want the shiny things on top.
Yep.
Right?
yeah, I mean,
Like that's the only reason I get it. It's not for the bonus.
I would say, like, listen, if you're adverse to paying, like, if you're adverse to paying money to do the game, that's if you want to be free to play, that's awesome. If you want to spend a little bit of money on the game, probably the best bang for your buck is going to be the Tavern Pass.
Yeah.
Even if you don't max it out, I think Doc Bomb shared a spreadsheet, I think in the Discord, that showed like at level 297, which is a lot of Hearthstone. At level 297, it's a better value than the Mega Bundle.
Wow.
So like it's when you ignoring cosmetics and stuff like that, like the amount of gold you can rake in is phenomenal. So I'd highly suggest it. But a big component of that is, for me, doing some of the achievement hunting, because it is a nice little boost early on to get to, post 100 when you start making the real gold, get digging up those levels when like it's 1500 XP every shot.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy to forget sometimes that a handful of the achievements have experience, tied to them that'll bump you up on this rewards track. And I don't know, sometimes they're easier than others, but if you're really trying to grind out those wins, get the rewards, get the cosmetics, get the gold, like, could be fun to do. Personally, I kind of wish that they would let you do them in casual, but that's okay. It is what it is.
No, it mean a little less to me. The only one I didn't get that was worth experience, the expansion that it was live, was the Omayog.
Oh yeah,
I've gotten that one twice since. So like just getting it, I feel like it's an accomplishment in and of itself. So I didn't mind not having the XP, and I'd already maxed out the tracks. I didn't care.
For me, the only reason that I'm glad it's not in casual is because as soon as someone completes something, they're going to concede, and your games aren't. You're not going to be matched up against like another deck. Then people are just going to be, oh, I did the thing. Bye. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get your game out of it. Casual, kind of. I think it would wreck casual.
Yeah. No, it could. Well, on those lines, we do have a question from Naya. So here's the question. I'm going to read it because a good part of our audience are audio listeners only. So for those of you listening or watching or whatever, we have graphics up on the screen while we talk about this stuff. And so I always recommend try to watch the video version because you'll get more out of it. But for the audio folks, I want to make sure that you're getting it as well. So I'm going to read this stuff. So here's the question. So SchmoopieDaddy's a great player overall, and we all know that. That said, he's a frequent poster in the achievements section of the Discord and frequently completes those achievements. What is his game plan for this expansion's achievements?
Okay. So I kind of take cards and I categorize them into kind of three places. I'll scan through the achievements and I'll look for good cards for good decks. Those are cards that you play good card, good deck. It's going to be super easy to get because you're playing a meta deck. You're going to accomplish it right away. Great example last expansion was the immovable object, the bugged one for Kael'thas. I was never worried about completing that because Kael'thas busted and preventing 100 damage was going to take not all that long playing a deck I love, Hand Buff Paladin.
Right.
And sure enough, I did it in 3 games. So good cards, good decks. Good cards for bad decks. So these could be either off meta decks that aren't very good, or they could be for example, I'm going to do the Barbaric Sorceress probably with a Spiteful Druid, right? So I have really high cost spells so that when I play my Barbaric Sorceress and it switches the spell cost, I have a high chance of swapping it so that I get that 7 cost discount right off the bat, and I never have to do it again. I never have to play that deck again. I can delete it if I want, or I can go back and keep playing it. And then there's there's bad cards and bad decks, and these are the ones that are way too long. These are the ones that are too grindy. The classic example would be oh god, what was the Dark Moon Fair? The tree that kept coming back.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, yeah, I know the one you mean. It splits into
Right.
smaller ones, then
And-
smaller ones, and smaller
And
ones.
right, and like everybody's just like, why Ixar? Why is this so difficult? And so he actually posted a list and it's like, this Greybow. He's like, this is
Oh, that
this is
tree.
my make a bunch of Greybow deck, right? And so like the deck's not trying to win. No. That's too easy. No. The deck is trying to make as many Greybow as possible before dying. And for me, last expansion, that card was Pet Collector, I think it was for the mini set. It's the 5-drop that pulls out a beast. It's for Hunter. It pulls out like a 5-drop or less beast from your deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I literally made a deck that was like 4-drop beasts and all of the bounce cards that were neutral. I was like using Zola. I was using Brewmasters like crazy, and I was just trying to like bounce as many before Pirate Warrior kills me. Bounce as many before Pirate Warrior kills me. And my motto is all is possible if your rank doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything is possible if your rank doesn't matter. Because I will ride a deck like that down to Platinum 5 and then have an absolute blast playing some form of coherent jank that will somehow magically bring me to D5 again. So like that's like one of my favorite things to do in Hearthstone. So like that's usually my game plan. Right now it's all still like very try-hardy. I like stress testing the meta. So I'm playing a lot of good cards, good decks. Very soon, sooner than usual now because of all the Kael Switcheroo stuff, I'm transitioning to good cards and bad decks. I'm currently playing like a lot of Clown Druid because there's a lot of expensive spells that hit a couple of the different cards I'm trying to hit, like Green Thumb Gardener and a couple others. So I'm losing like crazy with that, but like kind of gently because it's actually not too bad again into the meta, which is how I find some of these gems. But
That's
very
great.
soon toward the end of the month, I'm going to transition to bad card, bad deck, and just tank like crazy with something. I'm not sure what yet.
And something that you have done, and I don't know if everyone is aware, but I think you have used yourself as an experiment to see how deep in the dumpster legend goes. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it's like, so when you know, there's the ranking system, you start off at 20 or whatever in these different was it bronze and gold, silver, platinum, whatever, diamond, and then into legendary. And like once you hit into legendary, now you're there's a ranking system. So I'm legend, you enter, I'm legend 500, you play some games, legend 450, whatever, and like the closer to rank 1 you get, the better. Well, and when you lose, you're never gonna be out of legend. You're just you lose those ranks, and so it's like golf, right? Like the higher the number, the worse it is. And so Schmoopie has experimented with like how deep does it go?
There are people who play in silver at silver MMR. They go all the way down there. Like I remember our good friend Homemaster, who I think we're gonna have a question from at one point. 1 month, I was trying to auto concede lower than him, and he was like the anti rank 1. Like I kept auto conceding, and he was still 5 places away from me. I'm like, Homemaster, I can't catch you.
In reverse.
I can't get down there. I don't know what he was playing. He was having so much fun. Like,
That's great.
And what you got to realize is like I cut MMR like a wrestler cuts weight, right? Like I'll go up, I'll go down. I'll realize, oh man, I'm playing a deck that's too good. I gotta get jankier, and I'll drop a little bit. But I like doing it because I think I get a complete scope of the meta and not just like high legend meta or climb to legend meta, but like I get like a whole picture of the whole ladder between THL, my legend climb, and then my experimentations wherever they may take me. And I really like knowing what's going on, so that like when I'm in a Corbat stream and he's just like, well, Kael'thas is a bigger problem than Switcheroo, or like, Kael'thas is really warping the meta up here. I wonder what's warping it at lower ranks. I can say with confidence it's Switcheroo, and he goes, oh, that kind of makes sense. It's an easier deck. It's more prevalent. It's a little bit flashier for the Timmies, right? There's less moving parts. Like, I like knowing these things. And because I'm a hipster, because then I know what I can play that I can have fun with.
For science.
for science. And what's, you know what, and achievements are a great vessel for that. And another great thing about achievements is sometimes you stumble on some like good cards before other people do. Like I would not sleep on that 6-mana Naga and Druid, the Green Thumb Gardener. Like you're gonna see somebody crack it at some point. Because like I had a turn today where I literally spent like 22 mana in a turn, and it was crazy. Like I made 2/6/6 Nagas, but then I also like played a couple Oaken Summons, and I pulled some stuff from my deck, and it's just like, I wouldn't be shocked if, at least for the listener series, if it's like a card where like I pull it out and it blows somebody's mind. It's just like, oh wow, like should have used that card.
That's a really good point, because traditionally we sort of see how the meta is shaping out. A lot of it's what the streamers are playing, what you hear someone's playing on a podcast, Secret Mage, like whatever it is. But these achievements, summon this many things or play this card, make this battle cry activate this many times, whatever it is, it makes you play these cards that nobody else is playing.
Things that I think are garbage, and then I play it and I'm like, oh, this is actually decent.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm waiting for Corbett to discover this one. This one's good.
You're getting me stoked on wanting to go back achievement hunting. As soon as they started them, I did it for the first couple expansions, and I fell off doing it. And I feel like maybe I should do it again, because it's
more creative than Alterac. Alterac, I feel like they were kind of rushed putting them out, and so they made them all grind fests, and they were miserable. These are a little bit more creative. And like in a sense, some of them are easier because they're good cards. But I feel like there's a lot more like good card, good deck in this case, and cards that and fewer like just absolute turds. But I will say, get the Piranha one done, the Piranha Swarmer one done. Gobbledygooks in chat, I want to thank him, because it took me 5 games to replace my boar in Switcheroo Priest with Swarming Piranha, and I got that achievement done in 5 games easy.
Oh wow, okay.
And I didn't combo in one of them. So like that's a quick one before Switcheroo gets spoilers.
Yeah.
Before Switcheroo might not be with us anymore. Get that one done.
Sorry. I added a couple of new sounds to the soundboard.
For science!
Perfect. Get that one done. It's a lot of fun to see, like, wow.
What's it called, that achievement?
It's the one with the like. It's actually for Shaman. You're supposed to deal like 300 damage with Piranha Swarmers.
Oh,
and I dealt like 323 in 5 games.
Wow. Okay.
So do it now.
Yeah. Do it before Tuesday. That's for sure.
Do it before Tuesday. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about some news, because we got some earlier today. The timing on this is actually really good. It's always a little bit frustrating, but frankly, it's better that they do it right now, so that we get it to everybody very timely. And so I'll pass it off to Hydra, but we got a series of tweets here from Gallon, who was one of the devs.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the first one that Gallon posted. And it starts with, "Hey everyone, we have an update for y'all regarding balance changes." We all know people have been waiting for these, right? So he goes on to say, on the 26th of April, which is this coming Tuesday, changes to both Standard and Wild will go live. So yes, they are paying attention to our wonderful format, Wild. Now, so the second tweet is specifically about Wild. So the big bad boy, Kael'thas, is getting a text box revert to every 3rd spell you cast each turn. Costs 1. You heard it here. 1, not 0. So that is our first one. The second one that we have is Switcheroo. Even though Shmoopie said something is happening to it, it's not just something. It has become one of our very few bans that we have in the format. Switcheroo is getting banned.
Yep. Well,
yeah.
that's one way of doing it. And what's interesting is that it's getting a change in Standard and a ban in Wild, which is very interesting. It says both of these changes are aimed at protecting the long-term health of the format. All right, we take those.
Yep.
So, all right,
They're
let's go through the whole list of tweets and changes, and then we can talk about individual cards. But
Sure. So if we're those were the two main ones for Wild, but of course we know that what happens in Standard happens in Wild as well, right? So for Standard, Questline Warrior is getting an additional number on its final step. So it's now going to be summon 3 pirates every single step of the way. So, yeah, we'll talk about it after. But the next one is Pufferfist is losing 1 health from it's a 3/4 to a 3/3. So it's getting 1 health lost from 4 to 3. Switcheroo, so we mentioned, is banned in Wild. Now swaps health only instead of stats. Miracle Growth now costs 8 mana, which is up from 7. Oh, Kaz. Kaz is getting hit. So Kaz activation requirement has changed. It is now Battle Cry if you've played 4 other dragons this game, craft a custom deck of treasures. So Kaz has been playing a critical role in Druid for the past couple months, fulfilling a similar role to Deathstalker Rexar as being its entire win condition in 1 card. Going into our balance meetings, we knew we wanted to soften Druid across all ranks, and there were multiple angles that could accomplish that. While we could have nerfed their survivability, we worry that will lead to a more polarized metagame overall. We landed on Kaz effect change, as it should lead to a healthier play patterns, both playing as and against Druid. We also wanted to make sure that dragon-focused decks could still tap into Kaz as a powerful top-end piece. Playing 4 dragons is a fairly hefty requirement, but should be achievable in most dragon strategies. And then there's a couple notable omissions that Galen gets into. Notable omissions from this list: Demon Hunter changes. We'll be keeping a close eye on the post-patch metagame to see how aggressive Demon Hunter lists fare once slower decks are given a better chance. And just a final note of giving luck to our Masters Tour competitors on their preparation. So, we got lots of changes here.
wow. All right. So we had a couple questions from our Discord. And so I don't know. And I guess my question is, do we hit those now? Do we hit those later? These were submitted prior to the nerfs being announced. And so, I guess I'll bring them up. So the first question is from Charlie Dog. Question for the cast: say bans are off the table, what would you have done to Switcheroo to make it safe for Wild? And do you like the ban, or do you think a nerf would have been better? So maybe this was after. Anyhow, interesting question. I think for me personally, sort of a meta call, and was it irritating to lose on turn 4 to a 2020, charge 1 mana? Yeah, sure, but with the health, even if they just kept the standard change of it only does health and not attack, I think that might be okay. You still have combo stuff that you can do with Inner Fire and Bless or whatever, but it requires you to have more stuff. It just slows it down enough. I remember back in the day when they nerfed Quest Mage by making you play 2 additional spells or whatever, and everyone thought oh, it's not enough, and it turns out it's just fine. And so they don't need to burn something to the ground to make it impactful. Even if they slow it down by a turn or 2, it's usually enough to shift, because if you nuke it, it's just unplayable. And so for me personally, I think that would have been fine. But I'm curious, Schmoopie, do you have any thoughts on this?
I have a really hot take. Can I pass it to Hydra?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Hydra, what do you think?
I'm probably going to be the most extreme.
Okay, cool. I'm more on the same lines as Nate. I think that because I was thinking the same thing. Okay, there can be some pre-shenanigans happening if we still keep the standard nerf, but I think it was worth giving it a shot. Let's give it the standard nerf. Let's see how it goes. And you know what? Maybe ban it then. I'm a little worried. I know we haven't banned too many cards yet, but I wouldn't like that to always be the solution. There's the potential for it to be a bit of a cop-out of just, okay, this card is, it's wrecking the meta. Let's just ban it, right? But, I mean, they've only banned a few cards so far, so they are doing it sparingly, but, we're seeing it more and more. It worries me a little bit. I would have liked to see a nerf over the ban personally, but yeah, that's my take on it. I would like to see where that went, how it went, and then okay, say it's still broken. We tried, it's banned, right? But I would have personally liked to see that first before the ban. All right, Schmoopie, you're on the hot seat.
All right, so do you guys remember when they made changes in Descent of Dragons and they told us that moving forward, when they designed cards, they were really going to focus on class identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to tell us that that was the reason why they're shuffling a bunch of cards that were standard legal, like Mind Blast, and they're going to put those in Wild exclusively. And they took Power Word Shield and they neutered it, right? And they did a bunch of things to just sort of be okay, let's make sure that Priest stays Priest, right? What Priest is their class identity is always good removal, print resources, steal resources, but never really card draw, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my take on the Switcheroo ban is that Switcheroo probably shouldn't exist to begin with. I'm kind of upset that the card was printed, period. I'm equally upset that they printed a 3-mana 3/2 Naga that draws 3 cards in Priest in a class where historically all the cards that have been balanced around it have been balanced around this idea that Priest isn't going to have card draw. So I'm glad they banned it because it means that I don't have to die on turn 3, turn 4 anymore. And I 100% hear, the top legend crew, better players than me who say, oh, it's a cool card. It let me do really cool things. Switcheroo Priest really isn't that good. And it's not that good. If you're teching against it, it's easy to tech against.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to play a deck that plays against it. But that's if you're a tryhard and you're on ladder exclusively there to try and get the highest rank possible, or to your way of fun is winning. For more casual people or people further down the ladder, where there are still people playing Pirate Warrior, there's still people playing Questline Hunter. There's still a lot of chafe and decks that you can't go all out and tech against Switcheroo or Kael'thas. Switcheroo was a nuisance, and sometimes the deck died to itself, and sometimes you died on turn 4, and either way it felt awful because it's either the opponent queues up and auto concedes, or you get crushed. And there's even an argument as to whether or not it was even all that inconsistent a deck, because I did an achievement with it, the same shell, running the spells, doing the thing, except I wasn't hitting people in the face. I was trading into minions with a Piranha Swarmer. Deck felt okay to me. Swag took it 13-2 to Legend. You could streak with it. So I think it would have been Big Priest. Even if the win rate was 42%, it would have just hung around forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And I think when it eventually rotates back into Wild, and yes, these banned cards will eventually rotate back into Wild, it's going to be a problem again. I don't know how they're going to change it so that it's not. Maybe they leave the standard nerf and that's fine. Maybe Wild by then is okay with okay, we're gonna have turn 6 OTKs, because you can rat the boar, or you miss and you rat the darkness instead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My take is my take is this card just shouldn't exist. So the fact that it got banned is I'm a little numb to it. I'm glad that the format's going to change. I don't have to deal with it. But I'm kind of pissed it even exists.
Yeah, you know what? You make a good point, and I think that because everyone saw the potential OTK early on, and then tested early on, and it actually worked, it was it warped the meta. I think that if that hadn't happened, right? Hypothetically, it doesn't work with dormant cards and you can't do the darkness. I mean, there's other things that you could still do to make it obnoxious, but
Sure.
like if I played, I think you made a good point about it's a super cheap draw 2 minions in Priest that didn't really have any card draw. If I played it in aggro Shadow Priest or whatever, like I'll draw 2 minions and who cares about the swap? Like I just drew 2 minions. Like that's for 2 mana or whatever it is, right? And it's outside of class identity. When you look at things like Hunter, also it's like, hey, Hunter can do some degenerate things, the quest line and all of that, but Hunter doesn't have any card draw. So it's at least limited. Oh wait, they printed card draw, and there's this delicate balance that is now off kilter somewhat. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, frankly, I'm not sad to see it go. I don't know what they're going to do when it's time to rotate. And that's where things are going to really get interesting a year from now when it's rotation time again and the quest lines, what are they going to do with the Demon Seed and stuff like that? I mean, or is it just going to be permanently banned? I mean, I don't know. That seems kind of...
No, I mean, I think they got the card, or they like half got it, and they see what that looks like, and we get to live with it or not.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Did they not add Cleric back into Standard? Northshire Cleric?
I believe they did. Yeah.
They put it back in.
Because that kind of goes against the card draw as well, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's like Cleric was like.
Yeah, but you have to pay for it.
There's Cleric out. Did they take Cleric out of Standard in that Descent of Dragons sweep?
You know what? That's the...
I think it left and came back. Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
The hardest part
for some reason they want Priest to draw cards right now. Maybe they want to like bring back the combo Priest that was really good in like Oldham, and they want to bring back that like type of deck for Priest. And like so, like this was like a mechanism for that, but like it's too busted for Wild because like Switcheroo isn't even the deck that was going to abuse it the most. Like I don't know if we ever get to talk about light glare on this show.
We should at some point, but we got a bunch of nerfs to talk about.
We got a bunch of stuff to cover. So like I mean that's the thing. Like that card was gonna
we could
at least our words was bored.
We could hypothetically like drag you back here next week if you want to talk about another deck.
We'll see. You might not be able to kick me out.
Hey, we got one other question though, and I think it's really relevant here because it talks about one of the same issues, and it's a really long question, so I'm not going to read it verbatim. But the idea is talking about, this is from Arkham Cookie in Discord. About the idea of what if they banned or nerfed Boar, and what then could be fine without nerfing, but it'd be still a bit annoying, and what's going on with the charge cards in general. And it was funny to me because we saw, those of us who've been around for a long time, I remember when Leroy got Hall of Famed, the post of something like, hey, we don't like seeing a bunch of charge damage from hand. This is not the direction we want to take the game. I'm not I'm not doing that justice, but that was essentially like the core of the statement, right? And then they printed Mr. Smite. It's like, bro, what? This is like, isn't this the opposite of what you want to do? And I don't know. It's interesting. They make things like Smite. They made things like Kane Sun Fury, which was really never that big of a deal. Boar is an interesting one, and I think there's a lot of us that have had our eye on this card for years because anything that's 1 mana with charge can get abused. I mean, Patches lost charge, and Boar is probably one of the best cards in Quest Rogue, right? Because all of a sudden it's a 1 mana 5/5 with charge that you can Shadow Step and play again for 0. And anyways, so
I recall one of the devs saying that Boar has been one of the cards that they've had to design around for years just because of that, its potential.
And they tried to nuke it.
They did, yeah. Same with
They tried to nuke it. They tried to nuke Bluegill too, and we revolted.
Yeah, we
Well,
revolted.
But here's the messed up thing: is like I think the best switcheroo list right now probably runs all the weapons you can, so that spell fetch always hits the spells that you want. So like your visions, your shadow whatevers are always like grabbing either if you need switcheroo, it grabs switcheroo. If you want, divine spirit, you find your divine spirit. And if that's the case, like you could conceivably run the same deck with a South Sea deckhand because you have your weapon up. It has charge, 1 mana. It's the same combo. So like, I thought they were going to kill the pig personally, and then like Bluegill was going to get hit with collateral damage. But then as the deck has evolved, they probably were like, well, they're just going to do it with South Sea deckhand, so we might as well just put this as a side project for now. We'll ban it. We'll deal with it later when it goes back in the wild.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that Rory?
That is Rory. Yeah, she's meowing at me. Who are you talking to, Dad?
Yeah, I don't know. Charge is always going to be an issue. It is what it is. I kind of have a love-hate relationship. There's this whole circle of life with like combo control and aggro and all this stuff. And, there needs to be a place for all of it. But when one thing gets, super easy to play or starts running rampant, then there's some issues. But interesting. Boar is always going to be up there for me. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that I think it should be nuked, but I see it being potentially problematic. That being said, like so for the past several months, I'd played almost nothing but like control type. Like I hit legend with Freeze Shaman for like 3 months in a row, and I'm just tired of it. I don't want to play it anymore. I'd been nothing but like control druid and into control shaman. I just can't handle it anymore. And so I'm back to playing aggro stuff, and South Sea deckhand and boar, like they have a purpose. I had a positive win rate with Quest Rogue, but it wasn't absurd. It was like 55-60%, which is good, but not. It wasn't to the point where I thought it was busted. So I don't know. I think it'll always be on my watch list for like this could get out of hand, or depending on just wait until the right thing comes along. But with the reversion of the Caverns Below, the Rogue Quest, like boar has been fine. It wasn't until Switcheroo that it was a problem. Like a 1 mana 20/20 with charge is a little bit busted. But anyways, I had to give a big shout out and big thank you to our friend Imic, who put together artwork of the upcoming balance changes. So this is a huge help to us and any other content creators who are making content, that we can take a look at these nerfs or buffs or whatever it is, to see what these changes are going to look like. And so I thought we could go through these cards individually and talk about them, what we think that the change is going to be for Wild. And don't normally do this, but hey, Wicked Good, thank you so much for the raid. It's super cool. So I appreciate it. We're right in the middle of recording the podcast, but super awesome. We're really good timing, because we're gonna jump into all the nerfs that just got announced today. So first up, I have them in whatever order I got them in, and so we're kind of just gonna go through them. But the first one I've got up here is Switcheroo, and again, this is getting nerfed for us here, or excuse me, just straight up banned here in Wild, so we're not even going to be able to play it, which is interesting. I kind of have mixed thoughts. I don't like losing on turn 4, but at the same time, like I have been playing aggro rogue, and I didn't mind seeing a priest. It was great. Please, spend the first 4 or 5 turns doing absolutely nothing, so I can just smash you in the face, and then you'll be dead before you're ready to combo. And so now the entire meta is going to shift. I just hit standard legend this week as well, and so did I see a couple of funky like switcheroo shenanigans? Like yeah, but it wasn't the same as we saw it here. I don't want to dive too deep into the Switcheroo change because we're a wild show and it's just going to be gone. So I don't know. I mean, any other thoughts on Switcheroo before we move on to the next one?
I just want to point out, Blue Train was saying that Topsy-Turvy is, kind of why the ban is there in Wild, because big health, Topsy-Turvy, big attack, right? So
yeah.
Well,
and it wasn't. It wasn't just summoning one 2020 with charge. It was summoning a second one as well, and then swapping the health and the attack, and doing. It was a 40 damage OTK, so it's kind of gross.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens when it comes back.
Yeah, I don't know.
In 2 years from now,
we got lots of time. We got lots of time. Let's get to this next one. Actually, I think is going to be really interesting for us here. So this is now the second time that questline Pirate Warrior has been hit, and so like Hydra was saying earlier, this has been adjusted so that now it's 3 separate phases of this questline. And now it's just you got to play 3 pirates in all 3. So it used to be 3-2-2, and then it was 3-3-2, and now it's 3-3-3, and it just slows it down somewhat. I think in Wild, it's interesting to me because Pirate Warrior has been around for years. Pirate Warrior will probably always be around. For me personally, this is an interesting one because Pirate Warriors is like the deck I like to play when I don't want to think too hard. Like I can just play cards on curve and still do okay in games. But I didn't feel like it was some busted, unwinnable match. I was looking at the stats in HS Replay, and the win rate for this deck is absurd. I can't seem to buy a win with it, but I did really well with Druid this week. But it is what it is. I think in Wild it's a little bit different because our pirates are so cheap. Like, I don't even care. I'll play the bad pirates because I can play a bunch of 1-mana pirates. And so this doesn't even slow me down that much. And I think in Wild in particular, because we have so many combo and OTK decks, that you have to play around Disruption. You have to play around Dirty Rat. Like, unless you know what you're facing off against and it's some aggro deck, I think it is almost always a mistake to complete your quest line and then like let your quest reward just sit there in your hand like you were just asking for it to get ripped out of your hand and then lose. And I agree. So Wicked Good is saying in chat that this is mainly because low MMR standard players are salty about losing to pirates, and frankly, I agree. Like, I don't disagree with that at all. It just feels bad. You're trying to goof around with your Naga stuff or whatever, and like pirates are smashing you in the face and they don't like it. But like, I don't think that's a particularly good reason to hit the deck. But like,
the needs of the many.
Well, but like in Wild, we were playing these crappy pirates, and we like not even caring because, like as Schmoopie would say, pray to boat, right? Like I want to complete the quest as soon as possible.
All 1-mana pirates, just throw them in there.
Right. I don't even care if I draw patches anymore because I just want to play a 1-mana pirate, and complete the quest so that I can, the reward really hits once you play Rokara. And so, does this slow it down even more? Yeah. Does this nuke the deck? I don't know. I think I could still take it up to D5. Can I take it to Legend? Maybe once the Kael'thas Druids and the Switcheroo priests are gone, but like I'm getting a little nervous about the Questline Hunter right now. Anyways, so I'm talking too much. Yeah, Hydra, what do you think?
Here's the question that I have, because before we got the quest line, Pirate Warrior was in a fine state. It was completely fine. Once we got the quest line, I personally didn't want to run it because I thought about it the way that we used to think about the quest shaman. Playing a quest on 1 for Murlocs didn't make sense. Right? So for me, playing the quest on 1 for Pirate Warrior was like, I'll just play regular Pirate Warrior. So even when we got the quest line, I just ran regular Pirate Warrior for probably like 3 to 4 weeks or something like that. And I still was kicking butt, except for when I got the mirror. And in the mirror, I always lost because they had a quest reward. I didn't. I ran out of gas. They could keep going. So if it proves to be too slow, which I don't know it's going to be, if it is too slow to have this, I mean, now 2 more steps, 2 more pirates they need to play in total than it used to be in its first incarnation, it's possible you could just play Pirate Warrior the way it was before the quest even existed. So which can actually play the better cards, right? Like you don't have to just throw in a trash 1 cost pirate just because it gets your tick, right? So
I will say that the quest reward is so strong, though. You know,
it is.
I don't know.
It definitely is, because that makes. I beat a big priest after they had already started summoning their big board because I had the quest reward that kept shooting off cannons every single turn, goes over their head, right? It is good. I will make an attempt at playing Pirate Warrior without the quest just to see. I'm not saying it's going, to be the best deck on ladder. Rogue is killing it right now.
I'll wish you luck.
But I'll try it because it was fine. It really was fine before, but I mean, it's a meta call.
Well,
right?
And something for us to keep in mind, right? When they do the bulk of these, so they address two very specific questions. It was like, well, Switcheroo and Kael'thas were touched specifically for Wild. The rest, ideally, or the goal is to adjust them for Standard, and then there's Wild implications because we play these cards, but. The deck, I mean, when you look in HS Replay, and this is where the data comes in, I think a lot of this stuff is interesting because they're not going to just make decisions based on feelings. Every once in a while they do that stuff, but if there's something that's like a super like feels bad, but if you look at the win rate, so you have to look at data, and so I go to HS Replay, looking at Standard at the win rates. Warrior is currently number 2 at 55% win rate, but then when I jump in to view the decks and I sort by win rate, like the current recommended version has got a 68% win rate, 68.3% win rate with 200,000 games, and I mean, it's just a little crazy. There's I feel like it's a little bit slower in Wild because there's no 1-drop pirates. There's only one, I'm sorry, Bloodsail Deckhand. But there's a bunch of 2 drops, and so I've got Amalgam of the Deep, Bloodsail Raider, Fogsail Freebooter, Harbor Scamp, Obsidian Smiths, Tuskar Trawler. A handful of those are new cards. Something also interesting, and I don't think it'll get touched, but maybe. I was looking at the numbers prior to this because the idea is we were going to have nerf speculation. Amalgam of the Deep, when I go to cards and I search by percent number of decks, Amalgam of the Deep is the number 1 card in 42.4% of decks.
Wow.
Average win rate of 60.8%. Played 870,000 times, and the next the number 2 card on the list is at 22%. That's 20% difference there.
Yeah, it was
and it's just crazy, and it makes sense because it's a neutral card and it's all classes, but like it's a 2-mana 2/3 Battlecry Discover. Like the card is nutty. This is the one card that I've really been wanting to craft in gold because it's crazy good and it's in everything. And Wicked Good is saying that even in Standard, because there's so many 2-drops, that pretty consistently you could get the quest done by turn 6, which it makes sense, and I love it. I'm not trying to dunk on aggro players. I enjoy the deck because I could play it without having to think too hard. And some decks, if you want to do combo stuff or like where you're calculating damage, or this recent like Naga Mage in Standard is a really interesting deck because you have to. There's just so much more thinking involved. I have to Naga spell. how much mana is refreshing? Like in Pirate World, I used to play pirates. I don't have to do any real thinking, and I'm not trying to poke fun or be flippant. But it's just it's fun and it's easy to play, but it has left some people feeling salty, and so I don't know. I frankly wouldn't mind this getting like I hope this one is something that gets reverted back when it goes to wild. I don't know that it was really.
It must. It must, because it was not terrorizing us by any means at this point. I think it was okay.
It's so easy to counter. Like, meta warped around it before the expansion came out, where you had, Combo Priest was the new big bad because it just farmed Pirate Warrior. Like, people figured out, oh, you make a giant thing, you can't kill Pirate Warriors. Like, I had success for a period of time playing like an APM Druid that literally made a giant Auctioneer they couldn't kill in one turn. And then I could play a bunch of Jade Idols, or I could play like Yogg or something like that, or I could give like one of my Jade Idols, taunt, and then you couldn't kill it. Like, so like it was easy to counter.
Yeah, and it was.
Now with the nerf, I wonder if we start using the quest more as like a value engine. So like, do we put in better pirates, but also we go for more value? We put in Nelly, we go super greedy, we play the car hero.
Odd. You do odd Pirate Warrior now.
Odd Pirate.
No, I don't think so. I've heard people say that.
I'm joking. No, it's a meme.
What I heard about Odd Pirate Warrior was it was just trying to play Pirate Warrior, but you weren't weaving in hero powers. Like, there was no point to the upgraded hero power. I don't think that's worth. But I would use the quest in a Dead Man's Hand in an attrition deck.
No, I mean I do think when we were early on, we were theory crafting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think you have a good point there with Dead Man's Hand. I actually think if we wanted to make like a control-oriented attrition-style deck, that like we could get into some crazy stuff with like there were tools that got in this new set, I think, that got overlooked because there was some flashy stuff that was powerful, and so some of the slower stuff maybe got overlooked. But like there's support for like a control / Dead Man's Hand like menagerie type warrior, because I've got Kazakhstan, I've got Nelly, I've got a handful of tools, these bigger Nagas. Like, Nagas now work with N'Zoth, God of the Deep. It's a new minion type. Like, there's some stuff that is like, but it's like it's meme worthy when there's these insane combos running around that will kill you on turn 4. So,
because Control Warrior is very good right now, in part because it can out armor some of those combos.
Yeah, no, I can. I mean, I haven't played it. I
don't think it's thrown away.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this stuff kind of warps, and I don't know. Let me just get into the next one because we got a handful of these. But the next one also is an interesting card. Seeing a lot of play, and again, primarily standard. This is the Puffer Fist. This is a pirate, 3 mana, 3/4. After your hero attacks, deal 1 damage to all enemies. The health is dipping by 1. So now 3 mana, 3/3. Same everything else. And I think this is a fine nerf. Like, it doesn't nuke the card. Still a good card. The first time I saw it in standard, comboed off in Rogue with the card that gives it poisonous, and it just clears the whole board. Yeah. It was like, oh my god. But if nothing else, like, this was an easy inclusion in any sort of pirate or aggro deck because it's damage. And it goes face, and even 1 damage, like, it has soft taunt, right? You can't leave this. It's just, it does too much.
And like in the mirror, you can clear your opponent's board so easy against an aggro druid or whatever. Like, it's a scary card. I totally understand the nerf for sure. It's scary. It's powerful. It already had great stats, 3 mana, 3/4 plus this effect.
Yeah.
Like, of course it was nerfed.
I don't mind seeing a nerf like this because it just seems fair. Like, the card in the old days, you get the God, I can't even think of the name. It's been such a long time. Give your charge minions +1 attack. And War Song Commander, thank you. To the point of like unplayability. And I like seeing nerfs like this where it's like, no, the card's still good. It will still see play. It's just a little bit more fair. Now it's easier to kill or whatever. So
Situationally, it's like it's better than Defias Cannoneer. Situationally, depending on the situation, right?
it depends. Or hey,
Against a wide board, it's a little better. It doesn't send as much face damage, but it's a neutral card. It's available to everybody. I play it in my Pirate Rogue, so like,
why not both?
it should be toned down a little.
The card is good. Card is solid. The nerf I think this is like the perfect nerf for me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Next one is really interesting. Sorry, what do you want to say, Hydra?
I was just gonna say the soul of the card is intact.
Yes, that is. I think that is accurate. It makes me happy that it's not totally dead because I love the card. All right, this is an interesting one for us here in Wild. So this is Kazakusan. This is the neutral 8-mana 8/8 dragon. Battle cry. If all minions in your deck are dragons, craft a custom deck of treasures. So this card in both standard and wild was, I don't know if I want to say abused. I don't think that is the right word, but I think maybe better to say it was not being used as originally intended. In the dev notes that Gallon posted, the idea was that this essentially is a 1-card win con, and nobody was running dragons with it. I shouldn't say nobody. I think that the ramp druids, like maybe I'm running Onyxia or, maybe one other, but it wasn't, it was so easy to do. You almost essentially like self-mill yourself, and then cool, now the rest of my deck is nothing but these kind of crazy duels cards, and it goes against the intent, I think, of I can't speak for the devs, but I think it goes against the intent somewhat of what the card was designed to do. And so anyhow, the new battle cry is, if you've played 4 other dragons this game, craft a custom deck of treasures. And so now at least it requires some other dragons to play. I don't think it's broken. I think it's still fine. It definitely is going to cause a meta shakeup, I think, in both standard and wild, because we were playing this in Druid. I mean, you could play it alongside your like Cthulhu stuff or whatever else, and I think it's still doable, right? Because we'll run Onyxia, and you can run a couple other things, and it makes it okay. Martian Boo, I believe, was the one that came up with our like Cthulhu Druid list here, and I think that this card, like I'm anxious. I saw Martian comment on this card thinking that it opened up some design space for Druid and was an interesting change, and that makes me hopeful. And I'm just gonna go copy whatever deck that he creates and play with it. So I think it's interesting. And I think it will cause a little bit of shakeup. We actually might see some dragons played now, or maybe this card just goes away for a little bit. I don't know, but I'm okay with it. Shmoopie, any thoughts?
I think this is a bad change for Wild, good change for Standard. Kazakusan was a force that was slowing the meta down, which I think is a good thing in Wild. We need a knee break, and this was a win condition for control decks. You could stick this in a control warrior that's basically all removal spells and gain armor. And then when it was time to turn up the heat, you drop down Kazakusan, and now you have a win condition. And I like that. I think that's good for the format. I think 4 dragons, to be perfectly honest, is probably too high a hurdle in Wild for this to see any play outside of maybe Druid. Like maybe you play some of the dragons from Onyxia's Lair and hope that this is online. But like, you Juicy Psych Melon, you rip Juicy Psych Melon, you pull your dragons, and any one of the 3 gets ratted. Like this is a dead card. It's not active anymore. So I think the hurdle's too high. I think it probably kills it for Wild, which I find upsetting. But I see why they made the change for Standard, because if it was acting as a knee break and like a way to slow down Wild because of how good it was, like this is probably an omission that they kind of messed up when they dropped it in Standard.
Well, I here's my thought, where it's kind of funny. You'll appreciate this because we see it in our listener series quite a bit, where, I mean, this is why we will have like certain restrictions or limitations, because we would make some rules, and then people would find a way to break them, or to break things with still somewhat complying with the rules. Like, oh, okay, well, you can't you can't have any 4-cost minions. Oh, I'll just play no minions. Like, wait, that was not the intent. I mean, like, you're still technically, complying, but you're not, that's not what we intended. And so when we saw decks like Ramp Druid, or really the other one I thought was interesting, it was kind of the hotness for a minute there in Standard, was the quest line Demon Hunter that was running Kazakhstan, and you just like tore through your whole deck, made it all cost much less, and then dump this after your deck is empty. And so the way, I guess the secondary way that the battle cry works is, so it says if all minions in your deck are dragons, well, if there's no minions in your deck,
then they're all dragons.
It was still proccing. And so I mean, I almost think I wonder if they could have fundamentally changed it. Like, hey, if there's no minions in your deck, then like it just doesn't work anymore. But that's why they're paid the big bucks. It is what it is. But I think the intent when it was created was to, hey, they throw some dragons in there. But
yeah,
I don't know. I do agree with you that if we say you have to play 4 other dragons before you play this, and if we specifically build around that to the point where, all right, my deck only runs 4 dragons plus this, all you got to do is rat one of them, or Hecklebot it, or however else we're gonna get it, and then this won't work. Like, that's super easy to play around. So
you can't make it summon, because if you made it summon 4 dragons, well, then I just rip a Scale of Onyxia, and that's still a problem in Standard. So It's like they're kind of put in an impossible place where they're trying to like find the right level, and they decided that for Standard, 4 dragons is perfect, but we aren't Standard. So I think it, unfortunately, we really lose something here. Now, it's only for a year, right? Like, it's, after this expansion cycle, I'd expect it to get fully reverted.
Yeah, I think so. And
he's probably still going to be good. But we're not going to have that kind of, what I saw as a safety net, as like an off ramp for the truck going downhill too fast, for Wild. And we have one less of those, and that's upsetting to me. But
yeah, I know, I could see that. And I think let me just transition real quick into Kael'thas, right? Where we have a card that when reverted, it's like, oh crap. Versus, I think if we took Kazakhstan and said, okay, well, we're just going to put it back in Wild as it was, maybe, okay, that's fine. Because it wasn't,
fine.
It wasn't busted. Like, I mean, it could do some shenanigans, but it wasn't, it wasn't anything that, like, it took some time, and it took some building around, and and then there's the payoff if you do it correctly, where Kael'thas is like, we just barns into it, and then you just tear through your whole deck. And this one for me, like, nuke it to the ground, please. I could care less. This is not it's something that I'm sad to see go. And I'm not upset that they tried it. Like, hey, hey, you tried it, and it was busted, and now it's time to go.
Yeah, I was okay with Kael'thas, being reverted for a little bit. I'm always okay with the meta being shooken up and having a little bit of chaos for a while. Like, it makes the whole thing change. There's different counters to what's going on. I think that's fine. Obviously, they have realized and read Twitter and Reddit that there's a lot of upset people, and so it's reverted, and cool. So we had it for a couple weeks, right? Like, it got to switch things up. I think that's really neat, and I think that they made the correct decision to revert it back to your third spell costing 1 instead of 0. I think that that's completely fine. We had some fun for a bit. I'm okay with it.
Burn it.
Be the
burn
one.
it to the ground.
I don't think they should have. I don't think they should have ever brought it back to its full form. They nuked it for a reason.
Oh, I agree.
But I do agree. I do agree with 6 mana spells costing 1. I'm okay with that. But like it was seeing play, sort of fringe play,
Mhm.
for the effect at 7 mana, and you could make the argument that actually putting it at 6 is a bigger nerf than at 7 because now you can't pull it off Psych Melon. So it's
Ah.
like it's kind of like a sneaky, like kind of like sideways, like, oh, is it really still better or not? I don't think
That's
it's actually going to go away though.
yeah, but wait, like if
I
I
think
wanted to
you still
do
see people build like a slower druid that maybe takes a little bit more setup, maybe runs Cthulhu pieces, maybe does something else, and so we'll still see this card, but we won't die to it on turn 3. So,
yeah,
hallelujah.
I do feel like, if I wanted to do what this card does, like wouldn't I just run Anacondra instead? But I get it. I mean it does different stuff, I suppose.
Then you're running alignment though,
Yeah.
which is okay, but like that, you need 8 mana for that.
Yeah. Well, I will say I do agree with your first point. Like of all the cards that they could have reverted, like why this one? They could have picked like anything else aside from this, and it would have been fine. Revert
My
patches
Nitro Boost
or
poison. Yeah, patches. Come on.
Nitro-
Or Nitro Boost poison. Right?
Nitro Boost was on my list, and I was a little bit bummed that one didn't get touched, and this did, and it's like, Now, I imagine it's like, it's very easy for us, I think, to like armchair quarterback and be like, why do they do that? But it's fine. It's gone. It's just 2 weeks of shake up there, and now it's going. I did see something today that I just laughed at. There was a post of somebody complaining to Nick about what's taking you guys so long. I thought there was going to be balance changes within the first, or like after 2 weeks of the new expansion. He was like, dude, it hasn't been 2 weeks yet. And so we did get Crab Rider. We did get Crab Rider, didn't we? So I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody complaining about that yet. So,
Yes.
I did want to quickly soapbox about the people complaining about the nerfs taking too long, and it's like, look, here's the deal. As somebody who does project management like for a living, you cannot do this stuff overnight. You have to look at data. You cannot make decisions based off anecdotal evidence and people's feelings. You have to look at actual data. You need more than a couple of days. You need at least a week, or a set number of games or whatever. Like, you need the time, you need the data. Even then, it's like, all right, well, the programming has to go in. You got to notify the teams. They got to program it. You got to plan out the patch notes and the patch update and the implementation. Like, this stuff does not happen overnight. It is impossible. You can't do it. And anybody I think that's complaining about it has not done any sort of project management or work with a team or push out. Like, this is a global product. You cannot do this stuff in one day. Now, I agree 100% that this one shouldn't have been reverted in the first place. But, like, even so, like, they would just fix it at the same time that they fix the rest of the stuff. Like, they're not going to do some special, well, we're going to do this one after 3 days, but the rest of them we'll do in 2 weeks.
No.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, even look at when we had the Blastenheimer Cthulhu bug. Like, okay. But it's gonna, it just takes a little while, and it's just logistics. It's nothing other than logistics, and you can't do this stuff overnight. It's impossible. So, anyways, I'm done soapboxing, but like, people like 2 weeks. 2 weeks is pretty good, honestly. Like, that's pretty fast in the world of implementation.
And it's not like one person. Like, you can tweet to like Deck Tech all you want or whatever. There's a full team of like devs and engineers and QA and like everything that all have to get together in one room to all discuss this, right? Like, this isn't like, fix it, Cora. Right? Like,
well, and that's the other piece is like, there's either a decision maker or a team of decision makers, and I don't know what their internal process is, but like, yeah, there's not going to be one person that's like, oh yeah, oops, we messed up, I'll just go fix it real quick. Like, no.
We saw a lot of devs playing Wild this expansion too. Like, Ixar was on the leaderboard for a little bit. Like, that's not an accident. Like, I'm sure he enjoys Wild, but like, they were probably gathering data, seeing what the ladder experience felt like.
There's quite a bit
You know?
between, Ixar is known to play lots of Wild. Matt London plays lots of Wild. Nick Weiss, Deck Tech, plays lots of Wild.
Yeah.
And so it's great. I think we have and for folks, I think that I've seen a couple other people complaining about like transparency, or they should keep us in the loop, whatever. I'm like, oh man, I've been playing this game since Nax, and they are more transparent now in their communication and thought process than they have ever been in the history of the game. We get dev notes, like even what we got today from Gallon with, like, they explained the whole thought process for why they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And we get advance notice. And then someone else, I think, was saying, well, it'd be really cool, if there was some kind of way that we knew, what their thought process was or what else was going on in the game. And I was like, oh, well, there's actually in the official forums, there's a known issues thread with all the known issues, and they keep updating it daily on, okay, well, here's our whole list of issues, and as they fix one, like, they update it all. And so if you really are interested in kind of what's going on, that stuff is there. It exists, and so I think it's pretty great. You have to maybe know where to look for it, but
right.
I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know. I live in this world where I do a lot of project management, a lot of implementation and field complaints all the time, and I think it's done pretty well. Now, does that mean it couldn't be done better? No, but I think I'm pretty happy with how it is personally.
I think I mirror you, where it's like I don't think it's a change they should have ever made, but I have no problem with the timetable they took to come to the right decision eventually to avert it. Like, once you to make a change like that, you have to get it right. Like, the game has enough bugs as it is. Just from them trying to do their everyday, they want to make sure they go in and they, everything works the way they want it to work, and they need to take their time to do that. And I have no problem with that.
Yep.
I think they have the best interest in the game at heart. I have no ill will. Like, even with Switcheroo, I have no ill will towards the devs for having created the card. It's just, I'm frustrated by their decision, but I support them.
Yeah, I mean, I do think kind of laughingly, lovingly, I do feel like there's a handful of cards that are not thoroughly tested in Wild prior to, they're tested in Standard, not tested in Wild. Switcheroo is definitely one of those. Juicy Psych Melon is another one that it's like, bro, when you print that, like, as soon as we saw it, we broke it like a month before the card, like, it was able to be played. Like, the second we saw Juicy Psych Melon, it's like, wait a minute. 7, 8, 9, 10, like Aviana, Coon, Malygos.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke when they printed that card. Oh, thanks. Now we can just draw the combo right away. Cool. Thanks.
I was like, are you joking me? And so some of these have interesting interactions that we don't really know until we've been able to test play, like we can theory craft. And so I remember when Switcheroo came out and it was like, well, the darkness and the boar, and I was like, is that gonna work? Like, I think it will, but how does that work with dormant, and is it really? And then we got to try it, and it was like, oh no. So I mean, I'm happy to see this stuff go, and honestly, it's just shake up. I was looking at our spreadsheet for the podcast. So if you go to our website and you look at the old podcast, we've got all the archives there. You can look at old episodes, and we've got, who the guest was and what the meta was. And we only have an expansion for, what is it? An average of like 8 to 12 weeks before the mini set comes out. And in the big picture, like, it's not that long. So, anyways, hey, we've got one other card I guess we should talk about real quick. And this is Miracle Growth. So this is a Druid spell, nature spell. Was a 7 mana, draw 3, summon a plant with taunt with stats equal to your hand size. And it's being increased from 7 mana to 8. This one is real interesting, and I over this past week, I hit Standard Legend playing Ramp Druid, and this card was like instrumental. Like, absolutely just bonkers. Like, will it still see play at 8? Yeah, but like, this one hurts. This card saved my bacon so many times. And getting, a giant plant with taunt against any sort of aggro is awesome. And with the standard rotation and the core stuff, now that Earthen Scales is there, it's just nutty. You know, not only you get a giant taunt and then you gain a bunch of armor.
Is Earthen Scales still in standard?
They put it into
it's the core set now.
Oh, that's why. Wow.
Yeah, by the way, I'm missing 3 cards now. Like, now that they like rotated the core set, there's 3 cards that I don't have, and they're like weird, like they're just random like rare cards that I never. Yeah, maybe, I don't even recall. I was just like, what? Why don't I have that? What is that? How do I not have that? But you can't get legacy cards from packs. So, like, the only way to get them is to craft them. Like, I guess I'll get around to it one of these days, but anyways.
So it doesn't currently say 100% anymore?
No, it's sad. That being said, you know what? I've not dusted any extras. And so, yeah, I've been waiting for this stuff to happen so that I could get some extra dust. And so I was hoping that they'd nerf Nelly. Nelly, is it? Because I've got 3 copies somehow. But alas, they hit other pirate stuff. Anyways, yeah, this one I think is probably fine. It hurts the standard druid, but like, I don't know. With Guff, honestly, I thought they were going to hit Guff. I thought they were going to hit Guff at 5. It's just crazy. Guff could be 7 mana, 8 mana. We'd still play it, right?
Probably. I think 8 would be 8 would be rough. I think you play him at 7.
7, I'd still play it. I mean,
I think what hurts about this nerf is like you can't play Guff and then immediately play Miracle Growth the next turn, right?
Yes,
like
100%.
That's right.
Well, and it synergized so well with Guff, right? Because I play Guff on 5, I gain a mana, and I draw a card, and then I drop this the next turn.
Yeah,
and it was the thing of beauty.
I think, ironically, it's not that big a deal in Wild for it.
No.
I know it comes down a turn later, but I think when you're playing this card, you're only playing it for 1 mana. Whether that's in a new Kael'thas deck, I'm serious. Whether that's in a new Kael'thas deck or whether that's post Celestial alignment, like I think it's better than Overflow.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I think it's still going to see play. But it's kind of like Guardian Animals when they hit Guardian Animals for 1 mana. Like it hurts with the machinations for some decks. So it's not insignificant, but I think for Wild it's actually less significant than you'd expect, just because the effect is so nutty.
Yeah. No, you're right. And as a nature spell, I think you're right. We probably will see it in Anaconda type deck with Celestial, and so you play for 1 anyways. Interesting.
So it's never an 8 mana card. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not an 8 mana card. It's a 1 mana card.
Yeah. Well, there's the nerfs, everybody. All right. Well, if y'all are interested, then I think we had a pretty good discussion here. Would still be interested into kind of getting to our part 2, if we're still good with that. A lot of interesting discussion tonight, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'm good.
All right, cool. So yeah, really interesting. I think this week, just as a side note, I had hit. I hit Legend in Wild before the expansion, and then I did some climbing over this past week. I switched over to Standard, was kind of goofing around, and memed my way up to Diamond 5, and playing mostly like Mech Mage and some other stuff, just trying to experiment. I didn't want to tank my rank too bad in Wild, and settled on this Ramp Druid deck, and took it to Legend, which was crazy fun, actually. In Standard here, I went on a 12-game win streak. It was really fun. It was crazy fun. Yeah, 12 in a row to Legend.
Did you already have that achievement?
I did, unfortunately. I got it not too long ago, actually, but it wasn't from this, so I already had it. The list is in our show notes. This deck is crazy. I didn't realize, like, some of the synergies are absolutely crazy with Oracle of Elune, and in Wild we play that a lot in like the aggro decks where it's okay, well, my Knight of the Wild is 0 mana and I get 2 copies, but here there's just some absolute craziness that you can do because these Naga Giants cost 0 and then I get an extra one for free. So 0 mana to 2/8/8 is pretty crazy, especially with Earthen Scales. And then playing into like an Oracle of Elune, you got 20 mana and you play an Ivus that only costs 1. And now I've got a 17/17 Divine Shield Taunt Rush, and then I get a second one. It was just horrible. Like, whoa. It was just and it's super fun. And so this is what I took. Yeah, this is what I took to Standard Legend. The reason that I have this here is I thought that we were going to be talking about nerf predictions, and so I was looking at some of the stuff that I thought might get hit. Miracle Growth, there you go, and Kazakhstan, right there amongst some of the other stuff. Sheep, since Sheep is not here, I do want to give a big shout out to Sheep this week, who hit Legend as well. In Standard, had already hit Legend in Wild, but hit Legend this week in Standard with an aggro Demon Hunter. And again, this is in our show notes if anyone wants to copy it. Looks super fun. It runs the Drekthar with the Puffer Fist and Lady Citherno. Looks super cool. I haven't tried it yet, but I'll definitely be playing it. So big shout out to Sheep. It's getting very, very close to that 1K Demon Hunter portrait. So yeah. By the way, yes.
Having the 1K Demon Hunter portrait.
Wait, sorry, what?
I said, imagine not having the 1K.
Oh,
1K
yeah. We'll get there soon.
I'm not even close.
Oh, especially playing it on 3 different servers, right?
Yeah, it's bad. I
did call this. This is my own build of this ramp druid, and I say that because I think that the list was pretty close to settled, but there was a couple cards that people were kind of experimenting with. The two that, like, I pulled the list off of Tempo Storm or Vicious Syndicate or some play HS Replay, I don't recall, and I swapped out a couple cards because I kept thinking, like, hey, I want to play Queen Ashar in this deck because I'm playing so many spells, like, it's always going to proc. And so I added that, and I think I only did it one time. But if you've got an Oracle of Elune down and you play a 1-mana Colossal, like, you get another one.
Yeah. So it was worth doing it just the one time.
Hey, it was fun. I got a Gaia, and so being able to play 2 Gaias was pretty crazy. So I added the second Oracle of Elune. And I added Ivus because I had played against someone playing it, and it was like, it just feels busted when it goes off with Oracle. It was just super gross. But I think it was probably Blue Train who convinced me. I was on a Discord call in our Discord doing co-op stuff, and Sheep was there as well. And we ended up adding a second copy of Oracle of Elune. A lot of people only run 1. But it was like, hey, let's run 2 because the card is so good for consistency purposes. Like, now I'll get it, and I can waste 1 if I need to. We pulled out, like, some versions of this deck were running Doomsayers, and it just felt blah to me. And so we added Druid of the Reef, which synergizes really well with Oracle of Elune. You can use it as a 3/1 if you need to clear, or a 1/3 if you need to taunt, and then you get 2 copies. I mean, there's just some stuff, and so I tweaked it enough that I can call it mine. It's fine. Who wouldn't run 2? Yeah, exactly. Blue Train. I think you're right, though. But for consistency, and I think this is where you and I agree quite a bit, is that not a big proponent of one-ofs, because I feel like then you miss out on the consistency. And I wanted this card. Anyways, so that was our ride in Standard this week.